It's Slyssa's Priest, it's Dragon Priest. Very different from what Songbird has.
Yeah, so all those death rattles and the legendary spell Map Paladin may have some struggle against Songbird's list, but it is time for Slysssa versus Songbird. This is your undercard starting right now.
Kicking things off with Elemental Shaman, too. To me, this was the most surprising deck that happened in the whole thing. Excuse me, I thought Slysssa had Dragon Paladin, or Dragon Priest.
No, she's rocking the Cloning Priest. There's only one player with the Dragon Priest in the entire tournament, I believe.
Yes, it was Alistraza. I'm a big dum-dum. So ignore that point that I made.
But we saw this matchup unfold earlier on in the tournament, and we saw Songbird able to do basically recreate the Rod of Roasting from Dungeon Run. That was one of the coolest games of yesterday, where they were able to shutter walk and then pick it back up and shutter walk again because the grumble shutter walk interaction of bouncing them back and forth.
Just ended up sticking shutter walk to the table to bring it back next turn with the grumble.
And it was able to make the Elemental Shaman deck, which is normally a mid-range deck, kind of have a burn finish at the end, which is something you really desire against Priest opponents.
And one of the things we've talked about, alongside of after seeing the Shaman plays, how strong it's been in its matches. Talking for Songbird's perspective, it's even stronger in this particular match because two of her major attack cards are the Nerubian Unravelers versus Priest. The 6-mana 5/5 increase the cost of all spells by 2, really delaying stuff like Mass Hysteria and Psychic Scream.
Right, and if you're able to shut down those big board clears, your board's able to stick. If your board's able to stick, it's able to go face. If it's able to go face, you win the game.
Yeah, there's nothing I can say after that. I mean,
that's
just wait and move on to the next point. Yeah.
And she already has the Nerubian Unraveler in hand. She's got a solid Elemental Chain. Unfortunately, Bog Slosher, although it gets to keep the Elemental Chain going, you're playing a 3/3 and removing a 2/2, so you don't feel great about that tempo exchange.
Yeah, it's oftentimes at that point it's going to be, is that extra value that you get valuable? Is it important? And something to think about too is that you do keep the Elemental Chain going, and that seems to be one of the biggest problems that I've even had with any Elemental Shaman deck I've ever played, is that when the chain breaks, I often don't have an efficient way to recontinue it. Taking a look at how the ban phase pans out on the side. There's 3 different ban phases that take place, and then a self-omission or a self-ban that happens throughout this. And so the competitors are thrown into the scenario with 7 decks that they've brought to the table where it changes dynamically throughout. So that's what you're seeing on the left side of your screen there, is how that ban and pick phase actually rolled out.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a pretty even-ish series, right? They both have priests that are very similar. They both have rogues that are actually different, but they both have, rogue as a class, and then they both have the paladin and shaman, which is both more mid-rangey, I would say, compared to the other decks.
Finds a cloning gallery for Slysssa. So her major game plan is get to the end game, use cloning gallery, and then find a way to take advantage of it. The first step to that, of course, is going to be disrupting the board presence from Songbird.
So yeah, it's cloning priest. The steps are, step 1, don't die. That's an important one.
It's the usual good first step for most decks.
Yeah. Step 2, get things in play. Step 3, revive them, gaining a bunch of tempo.
Yeah.
And she's running the many minion variant. So the many minion variant, I would say, is worse for this kind of matchup. In this kind of matchup, you'd be better off with less minions, so you can more consistently get combo damage and try and kill your opponent that way.
Yeah, I think things are about to get really tricky for Slysssa, where she doesn't have Mass Hysteria as one of her clears, and this is right where Nerubian Unraveler starts to take advantage of that.
Oh, she's not going to play the Nerubian Unraveler. That means Coin Psychic Scream can come out.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Bat.
I don't know. She's got a plan for this Nerubian Unraveler. I guess she wants to save it, but that seemed like the moment.
That, to me, definitely felt like the moment.
It feels like maybe she wasn't thinking about the coin. Maybe that just slipped over, but no, she's writing it down. She just thought about the coin. She's got a purpose for this Nerubian Unraveler, I think.
Some of this could just be like the damage compounding issue as well. There's a ton of value in hand for her as she's pushing forward. So she's just adding a lot of damage, and maybe you use the Nerubian Unraveler in a spot to disrupt your opponent. And, maybe more concerned about the idea of getting blown out by a cloning gallery instead of Psychic Screams being a big blow-up.
Yes.
I don't know if that has more merit. I'm trying to explain the thinking. That's my job.
Exactly.
Don't you try to act like I'm trying to convince you of whether or not it's whatever. And yeah, and Psychic Scream, very much a win condition. When you can wipe out your opponent's board,
it's fantastic
on back-to-back turns and roll.
Imagine if the Nerubian Unraveler had come down. Yeah, this is starting to get really sticky. But now she has it saved, so she can use it to deny Cloning Gallery on turn 9.
Well, one of the issues I'm seeing with this is if you play the Unraveler, pretty much any big minion you play in this spot,
you can get end-to-ended.
Yes, and so, you know, caster vision, but you're also looking at, you know, possibilities of Shadow or Death that are in that situation, just your board not being strong enough in general to Lich King.
Right, exactly. She doesn't have a Hex for the Lich King or anything at the moment.
I think Slysssa might have gotten out of this one, which could have been much tougher.
It seemed really dicey for her, but...
this was clearly the plan for Cora, though, is
to deny the Cloning Gallery. So she's really prioritizing that, and I think she might have tunnel visioned on another opportunity that had risen.
Yeah. That often happens to me when I craft game plans. I'm like,
for sure.
That's really clever. I'm going to do that. And then I miss something small where after the game I look back and I go,
yeah, should have deviated from that original game plan to this new one.
It's a multi-purpose tech card, and I think that's what makes it so powerful against Priest.
Right. That's why I love it so much in the deck list.
Yeah.
There's 2 copies of it in there.
Yeah, I think rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, Slysssa here, she's got the 2 options. Number 1, which is silence this and basically take the turn off. Or number 2, it's, you know, try to throw some stuff in there and hope it works out. You know, because just how we were talking about from Songbird's perspective, where she can't handle Lich King because she doesn't have Hex. From Slyssa's perspective, she's fearing Hex if she plays a Lich King in that spot.
Yeah, if that gets hexed, then you just basically spent your turn doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing to do
when you spent your turn getting farther behind.
Right. Yeah, that's not a good thing to do when you're at 17 life.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah, Cosmic Anomaly, not too great when you don't have spell damage stuff in your deck. But I'm looking at Hagatha. I could see it going down that road sometimes.
So what's coming out of this Cloning Gallery next turn? There's going to be the 2 Radiant Elementals. There's going to be Prophet Velen. There's going to be Malagos. So with that, she can get the Mind Blast and the Smite off. Is this just lethal? Oh, the Malagos is drawn.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. So this went from being lethal to definitely not lethal anymore. So now there's only going to be the Velen.
Was it lethal? Because it's 2 Radiant Elementals. It's the Velen. It's the Malagos, which means that the Mind Blast is 20, and it would mean that the Smite is 34. Yeah, that would have been lethal.
So that is huge. She needed...
So here's all the draws that would have changed it from being lethal. Velen, Malagos. That's it. If she draws a Radiant, she's able to play the Radiant Elemental and then play the Cloning Gallery, which will bring out the 2nd Radiant Elemental as well.
So, yeah. She had lethal as long as she didn't draw Malagos or Velen there. So that is pretty backbreaking if you're Slysssa and you see that top deck come up, and now you're at 10 health without lethal in hand.
And that's exactly the situation that now brings the nod to where Cora's thinking was at, where you can just die to Cloning Gallery sometimes. That was the fear she had, and she said the rest of the time, you know what, if I force the Psychic Screams, they're no longer there. Maybe the pressure's good enough.
The shadows grow.
Slysssa can still utilize the Cloning Gallery alongside maybe a Spirit Lash to heal herself back up or something.
She's still getting a Zilliax out of it as well.
Right.
And there's not really anything in Cora's deck that presents an issue with pushing past, you know, everything and just getting lethal in that spot. This is kind of interesting, though. I mean, this is a lot of stuff expended.
But it's a lot of stats added to the table.
Yeah, it's a lot of stats added to the table.
But yeah, now she doesn't have that Spirit Lash for maybe a panic button later on.
Yeah. But do you need a panic button against a deck that represents so little burst opportunity?
Does it represent a little bit? I guess Grumble's gone, so yes, the burst is down. We're not going to see another rod of roasting being created.
I mean, your burst opportunities are really relegated to, like, you know, chaining Blaze Callers together. You know, you're looking at like 5 from hand, not, you know, 15 from hand.
Right. So you don't really need that much healing.
The burst is usually kind of in your face, so you're looking at a board of big stuff. Now that's funny to me, where you have Hagatha and then discounted Cosmic Anomaly to find Shaman spells that deal damage.
Mass Hysteria coming to the hand. Is that a board clear a lot of the time? It's looking like it probably gets the job done most of the time.
You can, I mean, there's some situations here where you leave back a, you know, like a attack minion, but you have Shadow Reaper Anduin Hero Power here.
So you should be able to kind of full clear no matter what happens if you utilize the Anduin Hero Power alongside it. And I think when my opponent has 2 cards, I'm looking at full clear, then develop, because they're not going to play 4 minions worth of stuff with only 2 cards in their hand.
This Priest deck is so complicated at every step of the way. Like, honestly, I think this might be the most complicated deck in the format when it doesn't execute its paramount game plan of just play my thing and you die. Yeah.
But I think it's easy here. I think it's my opponent doesn't have a lot of cards, clear the board, then develop.
Is it easy?
Yeah. It's very unlikely.
Is it easy for you, or is it easy?
I guess that's a fair point. But the Lich King here, she says, you know what, that's good enough. The 5-1 was the biggest threat on the table. Remove that, play the Lich King. Even if they had a second Hex to push through, Slyssa's life total's fine. So I don't think the Lich King's a bad play at all. And it definitely looks pretty winning when you look at this board right now. I would love to continue seeing more threats come out. I think actually at this point...
I think Massisteria looking a little better here now.
You like the Massisteria? Massisteria and then play...
Lyra.
Lyra, yeah. I think that's a fine play. I think
Cloning Gallery's fine. Just the options are good, and they all mean very different things. You know, like it's difficult. Well, she just have lethal.
The lethal is pretty good, huh?
Oh, the Vivid Nightmare.
The Vivid Nightmare for the lethal, yeah. Right.
So did she miss that on an opportunity turn?
We may have... No, didn't she just draw it this turn?
The Vivid?
Yeah, she had Massisteria and then drew Vivid, right?
Well, that would have...
Because the other card's the Lich.
It's not lethal here then. Because it's the Malagos.
Oh, right. The Smite, it does not get the same effect as if it were a Malagos.
Now, that being said, she has seen the Hagatha from Songbird's side, which means that there's no AoE clear left in the deck unless Hagatha provides that option. Cora's deck is almost entirely minions at this stage, so if she doesn't get a battle cry that presents board clear here, what that means is you have 2 Velens on board with a Shadow Reaper and Hero Power. Those deal 8 damage apiece in that situation.
And
so that was
Malagos you could play with the Smite next turn.
That was a big part of her game plan in this, was to just get 2 Velens to stick to board because you have taunts behind them.
I like it.
You're not going to Healing Rain outside of range of 8 damage hero powers from Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah, it's a good identification of, hey, they've played their AoE.
Yeah. So
let's go wide with all these 1/1s and set up some lethal.
That's a recognition of your opponent just running out of the options to kill. She didn't need that Mind Blast to win this game.
Right. She set up a finish for the game already.
Well done.
Yeah.
Slysssa going to take game 1 with Priest versus Shaman. And so the question that, you know, I have on my head is that Nerubian Unraveler turn to prevent a coin Psychic Scream. I think that might have been enough to get it done.
I think she tunnel visioned a little bit too hard and maybe missed an opportunity where she could have deviated and closed the game out before Cloning Gallery could even happen.
I think that was definitely something where we saw the Shaman fail to understand that the Psychic Scream is why the Priest is favored in that matchup. It's the mid-range deck. It has all the big bodies. That Nerubian Unraveler definitely could have shut out a lot of plays that Slysssa could have done.
Shuts out a Mass Hysteria that turn as well. You can't coin Mass Hysteria. Your coin costs 2 mana.
Yeah, exactly. Just no board control can happen. Your opponent's at like 15 life, and you probably have lethal the next turn.
Yeah, we're going to be going to a break for game number 2, Slysssa versus Songbird, right after this. Welcome back to the World Showdown of Esports 5, Hearthstone, the Return of Jia. We are here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and all over town we have stuck WSOE stickers. See if you guys can find them if you're local, but there's some really great stuff all around town here at the Poker Go studio. It's an amazing studio with fire and flames and sparks and people competing for more and more money. And that means we are going into Slysssa v Songbird, game number 2 with Slysssa up 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, this is really one of the big matches, I think, for Slysssa, where she has this one opportunity to take that $2,500 that's up for grab in this single match. And for Songbird, she earned the right to fight twice for this opportunity. She took down her first one, and she's looking to double that in this series.
Yeah, but it's not going to be easy. Slyssa's already up 1-0, and she gets to stay on that priest deck. It is last hero standing, so if you win with the deck, it stays standing. And Songbird, to answer that, I believe she's going to be coming out with her Malagos Rogue.
Yep.
So the Malagos Rogue is often... Rogue in general is usually the selection to kind of take down priest, but Malagos Rogue does it in a way that it's also a combo deck, but it's faster. So it just does its 0 to 30 combo before the priest does their combo, and there's not much more to it than that.
And the key card in Songbird's hand already, Elven Minstrel, that's really the bread and butter that churns out this combo and keeps it working.
Yeah, so Slyssa's combo aims to try and play Cloning Gallery, killing you on like 9 or 10, and Songbird's combo aims to try and cheat out a Malagos using the weapon and some Death Rattle trigger sort of effects, and kill you on 6 or 7.
Yeah. The big one thing you're looking for is set up the Necrium Blade.
Necrium Blade, yes.
When it death rattles, it activates one of your friendly death rattles. Well, the only friendly minion death rattle you have is Kobold Illusionist. So if the only minion in your hand is a Malagos, you create a 1/1 Malagos, and then you take out your own Kobold Illusionist, you make a second Malagos, and then all your 1 damage spells become 11 damage spells. So they die really quick afterwards.
Right. And Songbird is very likely going to have the combo in time because she's going to be able to coin out this Elven Minstrel, which is going to get 2 of the 3 minions remaining in her deck. So she's either going to get the Cavern Shiny Finder and the Malagos, or the Cavern Shiny Finder and
the Elven Minstrel.
The other Elven Minstrel, or the Elven Minstrel and the Malagos. So either way, she's going to find all the minions.
Yeah, she's going to find it quick here, too.
And so,
honestly, the way that you beat this Malagos Rogue deck is very powerful against slower decks. The way you beat it is outright aggression. It very struggles if you just play a Flame Imp. Like, they need to have perfect answers at every step of the way for your minions, or they don't have defense to really sustain against that. We saw Cora yesterday win one of those matchups where it was really unfavored, but she had
6 lethal.
Perfect draw with turn 6 lethal. That is very unusual for the deck. But in these kinds of matchups, in tournament metagames, decks like this really have a strong purpose because they can be a silver bullet to a style that maybe you can't beat otherwise.
Right, she has all the time in the world to complete this combo. The Cloning Priest does not put out a lot of pressure early. She has all of the minions drawn, so she doesn't really even need to combo this second Minstrel.
Yeah, it's at this point, her goal now is to empty the non-Malagos, non-Kobold Illusionist minions from her hand.
Exactly, so I'd love to see her just play this Elven Minstrel here.
Yeah.
She has all the minions, she does not need any more, but in a requirement to being able to do the entire Malagos combo is getting these minions out of your hand. So
now,
I dislike this.
Caveat to that, there are times when you can get minions Psychic Screamed into your deck.
Okay.
And so, you know, having a way to maybe find a Radiant Elemental that gets Psychic Screamed in and do something with that, I think I would play the Elven Minstrel here just for the sake of mana efficiency.
Right, I think it's, you want to save this Shiv as a burn spell to go face.
She doesn't need any more burn spells. Well, she has too many cards in hand right now.
Yeah, well, even more argument to just why are we playing the Shiv? There are requirements to do your combo. Do the requirements to do your combo, do your combo.
You make it sound so easy.
It's a very linear deck, for sure. You know, there's some decks where you break up combo pieces and do things. Malagos Rogue's not one of those decks. Malagos Rogue is designed with a purpose, and you do your step A, B, and C, and there you go.
Full steam ahead. That's it.
Exactly.
There's not much trickery or an alternate game plan.
So she needs to set up the Necrium Blade, and she needs to get this Elven Minstrel out of her hand. And at some point, she would love to play the Razor Petal Volley so that she gets those burn spells unlocked.
And honestly, having 10 cards in hand right now, Songbird doesn't mind that. There are no cards remaining in her deck that matter from a draw perspective. This is the ideal scenario once the Elven Minstrel's gone.
Right.
So you have enough burn spells to end. You have a backstab to activate your Kobold Illusionist a second time. Everything is here. You need nothing else.
So turn 7, she should be lethaling Slysssa.
Yes. I believe this is, pretty much that scenario. Get the Elven Minstrel out of hand, win the game afterwards.
And meanwhile, Slysssa has not been able to do anything, which is kind of like the Priest MO. This is what they
Honestly,
do.
Cora actually has made somewhat of a brilliant play here with the way that the hand is panning out, because what she can do is she can play the Minstrel next turn with the Razor Petal Volley, go to 10 cards in hand, and what happens is even if your opponent's Psychic Scream minions in your deck, you cannot fail on your combo.
Yeah, maybe that's intentional.
This is an actual ideal, perfect setup. Slysssa is incapable of winning the game if Songbird executes this perfectly.
Right, if she plays the Razor Petal Volley, making sure, even if Psychic Scream happens, she'll mill the minion so she can do the combo.
Yeah, and now that's a hard spot to put yourself in. You're not really thinking about, well, if I get Psychic Screamed and then I draw the minion. That's a very fringe scenario that I've only recognized from a top-down perspective. It's because I can see everything that's happening.
That would have been so beautiful, though.
And doesn't draw the minion.
Doesn't draw the minion, so there is a lethal. A whole lot of lethal.
Slyssa's just not going to win this particular matchup.
Man, if there was an overkill bounty, she would have won it probably 3 times in this match, right?
Well, you got to actually overkill them. In this situation, they just take 13. That's overkill of 3.
Oh, okay.
Potential overkill, very wild. Though.
Yeah. It was, she got in her hand there the Eviscerate. That's what, 14. Each petal is another 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 36, 37 overkill.
That's a lot of damage. No, I think
Yes.
I said it earlier. It's just damage plus damage plus damage plus damage plus damage.
It's a good combo.
Yeah, definitely a good combo.
And honestly, in that game, Cora almost won just by attacking Slysssa enough.
She got it down to like 10.
Yeah, and that is for a combo Malagos Rogue deck to even beat up an opponent with minions. That was just a very strange happening for sure.
Yeah, it's unusual that not only the draw is quite that good, but also that you see it in a matchup where it's extremely favored to do so. It's a very feast or famine kind of strategy. If it's against heavy aggression, it will rarely win the game. If it's not against heavy aggression, it will very often win the game unless you see something that really disrupts the combo. And really the big one to that is Nerubian Unraveler. It stops you from doing something on a particular turn, and then maybe you can capitalize on top of that.
And now coming up for the next matchup, we are going to see Songbird stay on this Malagos Rogue, and she's going to be up against that unfavorable matchup, most likely, that she was able to win last time around against the aggressive Pirate Rogue.
Yeah, that's really the one I think that's going to be on deck here is Pirate Rogue. Again, you know, we've talked about how much Malagos Rogue struggles to aggression. That's exactly what Slysssa has.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the mulligans right now for that game number 3. The series is tied 1-1, Rogue v. Rogue.
I loved how confidently you said that, because if she just didn't queue up Rogue in this spot.
Well, there's no way you queue up.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. I just think it would have been funny.
So typically the way this series is going to play out on paper, if you will, Slysssa is going to most likely take the win with a Pirate Rogue against the Malagos Rogue. You know, upsets can happen, but that's the on-paper route here. And then Songbird only has the Priest remaining, and Priest is not great against aggro Pirate Rogue.
Now, we've been saying that the whole weekend so far, but we've been seeing the opposite of that case. We've been seeing Priest pretty much win that matchup.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we just watched it happen, basically.
That's true.
Rogue's got to come with the goods. It, at the end of the day, it's an aggro deck, but it very much has that miracle element to it, where there are times you need a specific key card if you're going to win.
That's true. That is definitely true, that it needs to find those raiding parties or that Myras. We haven't seen a lot of Myras on Stable Element this tournament.
No.
It's been a pretty sad tournament for Rogue fans out there.
Yeah, Songbird, she's got Elven Minstrel again, and
She's
the
had
coin to go
Elven
with it.
Minstrel every time she plays this
Yes,
deck.
and that's the card you hard mulligan for. There's actually not a card in the deck you keep other than Elven Minstrel. You hard mulligan for it about 100% of the time in my experience.
Unless you're against, like, aggressive decks, then maybe keep a backstab. Or
Yeah, there are sometimes I think, like, against this rogue deck in particular, where something like Eviscerate can be very useful because you can take out a Hench Clan Thug. But for the most part, you're going to need that Elven Minstrel.
Right.
You have enough things, I think, that operate like removal spells that I think you're okay mulliganing them away in hopes to finding that card, because it's what drives the deck.
Ooh, that's a huge draw there for Slysssa.
Yes.
Prior to that draw, she could have played like a 3-3, and you don't feel great about that, or you could play a Tar Creeper, which is only actually 1 offensive power in play. But the Hench Clan Thug, that is the 3-drop that you want all the time, especially when you're initiating onto the board.
And I think Cora has an opportunity to just go with the Elven Minstrel in this spot. I mean, I think if you coin out Elven Minstrel in that situation, you're fine with it. You're likely to lose your minion in the Hench Clan Grow, but you still have Banish. and you still have sap for the Henge Clan afterwards. So you take a little bit of extra damage, but you do it for the sake of thinning out the cards in your deck you don't necessarily want to draw immediately. And you also get the benefit of, you get a minion in play that your opponent, wants to challenge in that respect. It does still operate as, a pseudo removal spell.
I think the minion gets challenged too easily, though. It's only 2 health against Rogue. Rogues have a lot of ways to deal with 2 health minions. And this way, if the Henge Clan Thug comes down, which I think Songbird's kind of expecting to happen, she can backstab it as a 3-3 and then develop the Minstrel holding onto the coin. I think the coin's very powerful in this matchup because it can allow you to execute your combo a turn earlier. Okay. And a turn earlier is a lot of damage saved. So I really actually kind of dig the sap. And look at how awkward it is for Slysssa.
Yeah, just because of how awkward it makes the hand.
Right, exactly, because that was the last charge of the dagger.
Okay.
If the dagger still had a charge and Henge Clan was coming back as a 4-4, I'm totally on board with you, but it comes back as a 3-3, and it can be answered now.
There once was a man from Gilneas.
Yeah, that looks good.
It looks powerful.
That's very clean.
Yeah. Preparation picked up. Now, remember last time we were casting one of these matchups, or this exact matchup, Ali Straza had the opportunity to utilize a sap on a minion and forewent that opportunity, and that allowed Songbird to be able to lethal her a turn earlier because she didn't have to redump that minion.
Yeah.
The sap is so powerful, especially the Elven Minstrel. That's the minion you want to sap because that minion costs 4 to replay, and if you're playing Malygos Rogue, you have to play all the other minions. So that's another 4 mana they have to play before they can do their combo, and that can be an entire turn.
Because if you have the 1 extra minion in your hand, you go from Malygos lethal when the opportunity is there 100% to Malygos lethal about 25% of the time instead.
So I love seeing this sap come out. I think it's essential that you sap the... you don't have to sap this Elven Minstrel, but at least one of the Elven Minstrels
She wants to Edwin.
Yes.
And you've already seen a sap,
I think it's perfect here.
Yeah, it's just a big threat.
You can utilize the coin to maybe get out the Elven Minstrel and the Shiny Finder this turn. You obviously want to try and
take 6?
You're definitely taking 6, I think, this turn. How else are you removing it? You're not going to just vanish just Edwin. But Vanish is another double-edged sword when you're using it as removal, because if you bring back your own minions, they're kind of a bummer. She's going to Razor Petal volley it? Okay. I can get behind it.
Doesn't look good, but you don't take 6.
You don't take 6, you don't progress your game plan. But if you expect your opponent to load less than a 6-6 up on the next turn,
I usually expect them to load up less than a 6-6 when they're, that's pretty much the biggest thing in their deck.
Well, they have 6 mana, though, so...
This is pretty close to a 6-6.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking. Like, if they play 2 3-drops, they have 1 3-drop already in their hand.
This is the other side of the Malygos Rogue variation, too, is when you're against a matchup where your cards don't line up ideally, and you have to make weird plays to try to stay alive, you are suddenly very unfavored in that spot.
There once was a man from Gilneas.
The combo is assembled, but is there time? The Minstrel has to come out. The weapon needs to be set up and swung, and if there's a taunt in the way, it has to be swung into the taunt.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be swung. If you can have 2 extra mana to be able to utilize your hero power, you can overwrite it that way to get the death rattle.
I'm looking at preparations being some of Songbird's best draws.
Oh, yes.
Yes. She needs to find some preparation because extra mana paramount right now.
As well as the secret could be pretty impactful. If she's able to pick up some of those rogue secrets, get an evasion out there, could buy a turn. She just needs 1 or 2 turns to close out this combo. There's an evasion. That's a big draw. Evasion allows her to play evasion, making it so she cannot die unless she gets hit for 11 in 1 single attack and get the Minstrel out of her hand. But she still can't set up the blade in that case. She could say, you know what, screw it, I got 25% chance to win. Let's hold on to the Minstrel and just do the blade.
I don't think there's really much of an issue with that. I think 25% chance here would look good, but is this 25% chance? If you have 2 Malygos in play, the Sinister Strikes are dealing 13 apiece. So right now, Songbird doesn't die to anything. There's actually not a boost of damage that Slysssa can get that eliminates this in 1 blow. So it would be 25% chance to win in this case, but that's if Preparation's not drawn. If Preparation's drawn, it's more than that because she'll have the Necrium Vial plus the Necrium Blade.
Or Backstab can improve the odds as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many.
So Preparation or Backstab are the big draws that could try and increase her odds of winning here. I love the lethal setup. You know, she has to push that extra damage to make it so that the Sinister Strikes would be lethal.
Yeah, and Songbird's going to have to go for it next turn. She doesn't have an option. At 2 life, you know that any of these shots are going to kill you. There's a 2 damage dagger up. You can't vanish and try to stay alive for a turn that way. It's do or die time.
So what? She's only getting the 1 Malagos.
Well, right now...
Oh, another evasion.
She's at 2. She has to go for it.
Oh, yeah, she's at 2. It doesn't work. It's not Ice Block.
Yeah, and she doesn't have any way to actually take off Cobalt Illusionist here, so there's no way to win.
Yeah, there's no way to win. It's just not lethal here. It's only 16 points of burn.
Wow.
But, you know, you got to set it up there. So, I appreciate her effort setting it up, trying to give herself outs there to get the lethal.
Yeah, I think a backstab there could definitely have changed that. I mean, the first one succeeded. That would, after that first one succeeds, that's literally 50-50 to win or lose the game at that point.
That's, again, very, very close game for the Rogue matchup. And that's something where we kind of expect the Pirate Rogue to kind of always win that. But both of these games that Cora has played the Pirate Rogue with her Malagos Rogue, it's been either she's winning or she's almost there. Again, she almost had the chance to win.
That was a pretty close to ideal circumstance, I think, for Songbird as well.
Yeah, it went pretty okay. The only turn that I have questions about, looking back at that game from Songbird's perspective, was clearing the Edwin Van Cleef. I think the Razor Petal Volley would have been able to give her more chances to maybe win the game at the end there, and I don't think stopping the 6 damage changed her clock on how going into the Malagos turn looked.
We'll still look at the Hench Clan Thug. I don't know. I still would have coined the Minstrel.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to see if Songbird can get out a win with this Malagos Rogue after a quick break, so everyone don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to WSOE 5. Slysssa just took game 3. She is currently up 2-1 over Songbird. Lots of exciting action happening right here at the Poker Go Studios. We're so excited to be here. We're about to get back to the action, but I want to tell you about something that you can win. You can win an Asus Republic of Gamers desktop. All you gotta do, type in that Twitch chat, ~point giveaway, click on the link, and you can enter in to win. And for one lucky person that enters in that contest, you're gonna win a 2-person VIP trip right here to Las Vegas to witness WSOE 6 or 7 in person. So type that in, ~point giveaway, click on that link, and register to win. Who doesn't like stuff for free? Do it. Sending it back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much, Lauren. I want to go in Twitch chat and go into that giveaway, but unfortunately I'm here at the desk and I am not allowed to enter such a giveaway.
Treat yourself.
If only, if only. Guys, this is going to be going into Game 4, Songbird v Slysssa, and Songbird's going to be bringing her Priest deck against Slyssa's Rogue. How is that looking for her?
If we take it and we look on paper, the Rogue is immensely favored against Priest. Lately, the trend of the tournament has been that the Rogues have kind of been upset by the Priests as of late. So it could kind of go either way. If Songbird is able to overcome this Rogue, defeating it with the Priest, she does have a favorable matchup lined up at the end with the Paladin versus the Priest, and she'd be favored at that point.
Yeah.
But it's a big hurdle to jump over first.
So something that I just keep noticing happening is that the Rogue just keeps missing its key cards. It's not able to get Faldori Strider and have the activations chain off, and it's not finding Myra's Unstable Element. Like, I look at this hand from Slysssa.
Strider's a key card?
It's
Raiding Party. That's all they need is Raiding Party.
Right, I think Raiding Party is a key card as well. Basically, it's the stuff that gets you extra stuff.
Right. Full mulligan here. I like seeing that. You got to find the good cards. These are not it.
Nope.
These are not what you want to be seeing as the Pirate Rogue player, but there's time for the hand to develop. Ugh.
So to me, that's the big story. So, you know, I think the mulligan strategy is spot on here, recognizing that you don't want to just keep minions and play them on curve and hope that works out. You have to find the big bursting points of the game.
Yeah. That hand, wow. Not a lot going on there for Slysssa. It's going to be pretty tough. She needs to find something semi-decent next turn, but there are a lot of things she could get, right? Like,
I feel like it's not next turn. I feel like until about turn 6 approaches, if you haven't done anything relevant by then, I feel like that's when it's time to, like, okay, I have to draw it now or I lose the game.
Sure.
Because the damage comes all at once. You're piling onto a weapon, you're buffing up the weapon with extra charges, you're putting multiple threats online at the same time.
I think that's true if you have Myras. I think it's very, very easy to close the game with Myras if your opponent's at a ridiculously high life total, as Songbird is likely going to be with how weak the opening is. But if you have a weak opening and then you don't find Myras, then it can be very difficult to overcome.
Hard mulligan for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's done everything right so far. It's just not panning out. I think you can probably just ignore this minion for a turn. I don't think it's doing anything. It's going to poke you for 2. You then kill it next turn. So you get to save the backstab that way. And you get
the backstab.
I would have saved a lot of these resources. This makes Edwin off the top way less good. This is not the time for a power spike. I think she's feeling a little bit of the pressure, the weak draw, and diving in way too early. A lot of cards just got a lot weaker for her to draw now. That prep cheated out 1 mana. That could have prepped a Raiding Party if she drew it off the top and done a lot more impactful things.
I don't mind this. I think Raiding Party still would have been great here.
What about Edwin Van Cleef?
That one gets a little bit worse.
I don't understand the rush is my only concern.
I want to start dealing damage is why.
Okay.
Swing. I want to swing.
You definitely have to swing.
Yeah.
We're committed to dealing damage.
The way something to think about too is that Songbird's Resurrect Priest is not the super defensive one. It doesn't have Witchwood Grizzly. It's not running Lich King in it. It is seeded as, it's like the pure combo version. So it fights decently against aggro, but you don't really have these big sustainable turns unless some fortune happens, like Shadow Essence for a Ziliax or just having the Ziliax in general. Like, those are really the 2 major defensive points of the deck. And so I feel like Slysssa getting more aggressive here and having Songbird have to have one of those tools is a wise choice, because you're going to need to draw something big anyway. And I think something big here is like Myra's. I think it's Raiding Party. I don't think it's Edwin. I think Edwin's a good one. But I like the aggression. I think you giddy up, put them to the test, and if they don't have it, you win.
Hey, it's working out so far.
We're going to find out if it keeps working, because this Shadow Essence is a big turn.
Oh, the Spirit Lash is also just huge. Now you don't have to commit to the Shadow Essence. You just saw your opponent float 5 mana, essentially, so you know they don't have any minions in hand, so then you're thinking, what do they have in hand? They didn't play Myra's there. It's probably not that, so they probably have, backstabs, preps, eviscerates, and zaps.
It always takes me a minute to process when Spirit Lash is just very good on its own. And then you started talking about how big it was, and I'm looking at it, I'm like,
it was nutty.
And I started watching it full, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is very good.
You have the hand read that they don't have minions to develop.
And so now in Slyssa's spot here, I'm looking at the Leroy backstab. Like, maybe the 6/1 sticks around.
You do it, for sure. You just saw 2 of the crucial answers to Leroy from the deck utilized, Smite and Spirit Lash. So there's a decent % chance that that sucker's going to stick. That's your chance of winning the game. good ability to recognize that, yeah.
And Slysssa thinking about preserving the dagger in case
The second lash.
green skin comes off the top, or using the dagger on the minion in case second spirit lash is there. I think ultimately you lead on swing.
Oh.
There and smite drawn.
It's heartbreaking. Yep. Even if it wasn't Radiant Elemental, Songbird could point out the smite.
So now 8 damage away, but
No Leroy left.
looking at Eviscerate.
One more of those and you get there.
So you get to poke Songbird down to 7 with the dagger.
Right.
You can heal it to 9, and then you have the dagger plus the Eviscerate to get it done. So now, big draws, Myra's Unstable Element. Eviscerate.
Right. It's still Raiding
Yeah,
Party.
starts to get a little thin after that.
The
But, you know,
Raiding Party
Raiding Party
maybe
finds
do
South
something.
Deckhand.
Yes.
You got another copy of Shadowblade in there. There's some stuff here that ends up working just because of the amount of damage that was poured on.
Yeah, if you're able to combo Raiding Party, you get Shadowblade and Deckhand. Plus the Eviscerate would be 9.
And right now, the way that Songbird's hand is, none of this plays defense. These are all things that are meant to fight off presence on your opponent's board, or, you know, to recreate a position that you had earlier in the game with the minions that you had. None of these really accomplish that plan in any way. For all intents and purposes, Songbird has 6 dead cards in hand right now.
So yeah, I don't think you play any of these spells here. You want to try and play towards that double Eviscerate out. If you do play the cards, I don't think it gives you any other outs necessarily. There's a lot of...
Loading up on Radiant Elementals.
I mean, that's the way you got to do it.
And there's
kill them
out-
before they kill you.
There's outs for lethal here.
That's not lethal.
No, that's the opposite.
Yeah, that is defense.
It helps buy you time in this situation, though. You know, right now, Songbird's just, you know, punching through with minion damage.
She doesn't need time. The longer the game goes on, the
Yes.
smaller the lethal chance gets, because the Priest Hero Power is healing for 2, and the Rogue Hero Power is only dealing for 1.
I mean, we went from another Eviscerate being lethal here to suddenly another Eviscerate is out of range.
Right.
You need additional.
Need more than just an Eviscerate now, so that was kind of like the one opportunity. Rogues this tournament, man. There's been, I don't even think I've seen Raiding Party cast all tournament. It's just been, that's just been the story of the tournament, is Rogue's been drawn poorly. It's a powerful deck, but it's not, maybe not the most reliable deck in the world. I don't think she did anything wrong. She full mulliganed for the good cards, and she just didn't get those cards. Yeah, recognizing that now there's no more top decks that's going to give her lethal. So she needs to play towards this board control plan and have the board actually connect, because she can't make it on burn alone with Leroy gone and only 1 Eviscerate left.
Yeah. That only gets a Radiant and a Whelp.
Right. Yeah, there's not a lot of things actually dead.
Honestly,
Not a lot of different
if I'm in
things.
Songbird's spot, I'm tempted to just psychic screen this stuff back. I'm like, just muddle down their draws.
Just make it so they don't get Myra's, right? That's
Yeah.
the only way she loses, if Myra's comes out here. This Tar Creeper has to go with the distance.
One, yeah. Yeah, I would just scream this back. I think delaying the draw of Myra's Unstable Element is the key here for Songbird.
I like it. I'm in agreement with you.
I guess there is some merit to not giving them a Radiant Elemental, so that if they draw Myra's, they have Radiant Elemental and all that nonsense.
Chooses to go with just the Hysteria to clear the board.
Ooh. That's big.
Now their hero powers are kind of on even turf. And there's a 5-4.
Yeah, it's an uncontested. Oh, boy. That is a huge draw.
It's a lot of healing that can come out.
Yeah, it's also a 7/7.
Yes, yes. That you can utilize your hero power alongside.
So Slysssa can still win the game from this spot, though. Myra's Unstable Element is really the key one to think about, but there's enough damage left in the deck that with what's on board and the life total right now, if perfect situations happen, you're there. But you're looking at a Velen sitting on board. You know that Songbird hasn't played anything basically the entire game in terms of, you know, the big cards that are in her hand. You know that killing the Velen is fruitless, but you know that not killing the Velen means that Core is healing for 4 a turn and dealing damage.
And you could die. You could get Mind Blasted. They could, if Songbird's able to draw either Mind Blast or Holy Smite, she can just play Velen alongside, or not Velen, sorry, that's already in play. The Malagos alongside the Velen, and then coin out the burn spell and take care of business.
Yeah, just missing the key cards, and that's, you just maximize your chance for it, and you hope for the best. That's the aggro rogue deck.
You go face and close your eyes.
You gotta start swinging, and if you get in the way, that's your fault.
How does she get lethal? What's the combination that she needs to get off the top to have lethal next turn? She's got one turn to do it. Oh, whoa. She's going to clear it. Hoping that there's no reses on the other side is ambitious. She's still fighting for the board. She's hoping to get Myra. She says, you know what? If I don't kill it, even if I go face with everything after I get Myra's, I probably won't have lethal.
I think that seals it.
Yeah, this is just completely over now. Now even if you get Myra's, you are super mega dead.
Yep, I think the head tilt.
Yeah, that's
looking at
that's a tilted game right there. I think
she's literally tilted.
Literally, she is tilted. I think she played it right. Even your point about the, I was like, maybe she's going in too early. She could wait for the Edwin. I think you were right. I think she played it perfectly, going in there, getting the Dread Corsair out a turn earlier to get 3 extra points of damage in, set her up in a better spot as the series develops.
Yeah, I mean, if you play your minions, they're in play.
Yeah. And like Edwin would have been fine behind that still with the cards remaining in her hand. So I don't think there was anything she could have done to play this matchup better.
Sometimes you get wrecked.
Sometimes it's just how the cards unfold, especially with Rogue. It's a very volatile sort of deck.
That means we're going to game number 5. Songbird ties it up. Paladin versus Priest is going to be that final matchup.
Yet another rogue, aggro rogue, dropping a game against Priest. Priest is just getting the draws, and that aggro rogue just not pulling them.
Priest is just good.
It's a powerful class.
You gotta bring a wacky deck like Malagos Rogue to beat Priest.
Yeah, that's been working out for Songbird. Maybe that's a better counter deck, right?
It's a good last hero standing strategy where you're not trying to beat a deck multiple times. You're not trying to just prevent it from getting a win in general. You're trying to mitigate its effect.
Yeah, and we're going to see if Songbird can take this Priest deck and win game number 5 against Slysssa right after a really quick break. Don't go anywhere, everyone.
That's a really good point.
Game number 5 of WSOE 5. Slysssa versus Songbird. The Mechano Egg Paladin versus the Malagos Priest combo Prophet Velen shenanigans.
Yeah, you basically say all the words, and that's the Priest deck. It's an amalgamation of all those weird things where it has to get all of them assembled somehow, but that's the beauty of Xeric's Cloning Gallery.
Yeah, especially if you draw all those minions first, then it just becomes not a Xeric's Cloning Gallery deck, but I have all these powerful things and a Spellstone.
Yeah, it's play big things, hope that they die, hope you resurrect them all at once and kill your opponent deck.
And against Control,
Classic.
it's pretty much very likely that they're going to die because Control has to remove them and respect them.
Yes, and in a matchup like this with Slysssa bringing the Mechano Egg Paladin, I definitely think this is an uphill battle. You know, one of the big effects that you have with cube decks versus Control is that when they try to sweep your board, it often means that they're just recreating that board presence in a different form. And against Priest, one of their major tools to clear is Psychic Scream. And so it turns that all on its head and really breaks that rule. And so I think it's a really tough matchup for Slysssa where if she's going to win, it's going to be through outright aggression.
I agree with you. And one of the things that helps with his outright aggression plan is the 2 copies of Blessing of Kings that are included in the deck. It's a spicy tech card that maybe allows this Control deck to get a bit aggressive.
Yes. Blessing of Kings is the closest thing that Paladin really has to Core Chron Elite, and that's why I love that card.
It's an awesome card, and we're going to likely see it come out here, and that comes down way before Psychic Scream. And if Slysssa can get in, you know, a bunch of chip damage there, maybe True Silver Champions or even Uther in the late stages of the game could push for enough damage to close out before the Cloning Grease combos get online.
Yeah, and so some of the key cards I think to look at are the ability to actually stop that Blessing of Kings from happening. So I'm thinking like Master Spell, I'm thinking Shadow or Death. You know, you get hit by it once, but then you're able to wipe it off the board. I think that's really one of the key things that you have to look for when it comes to breaking that. But Slyssa's going to deviate. She's going to go with the Spirit Singer Umbra.
She needs to not draw Mechano Egg, though. If she draws the second copy of Mechano Egg, then when she plays this Meat Wagon, it will pull nothing. But right now, when she plays Meat Wagon, the Umbra is going to trigger its Death Rattle, thus pulling the Mechano Egg, and then the Umbra is going to trigger the Death Rattle of the Mechano Egg, pulling out an 8/8. And that is a whole lot of stats.
Yes. Spirit Singer Umbra is just when you summon a minion with Death Rattle, not when you play one. Play one means that you paid a cost from your hand to use it.
Here it goes. Now that is some stats.
Yeah, that's scary. Mass Hysteria is the other premier board sweeper, and that's not quite as strong in this position.
Cora seems a little upset. These other players, I guess they can hear each other. They're talking to one another there.
Slyssa's having a great time.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you get unlucky in the last series. It's only fair you get unlucky in this one, right? The Rogue didn't go well for you, but the Paladin is kind of hitting everything it needs.
Let's talk about this Radiant real quick, because that's the next order priority. Slysssa has to kill this, right?
Why?
Well, think about it.
I mean, your opponent gets to now play Shadow Essence, which if you kill it, they would be unable to do. Well, in this variation of the deck, it's never like a Lich King or anything, but yeah, I agree with you. It's it's 3 damage. It's probably worth taking care of so that your opponent can't play that.
It was 5, has a powered shield. So you trade the Loot Hoarder, trade over the Spirit Singer Umbra. You take care of it.
5 is a lot of health, though. Don't you want to get that face damage in?
Yeah, I do, but I really don't like when my opponent gets free mana.
Zilliax can magnetize onto. Now you got to remove both of them because you can't have Psychic Scream going off. So
yeah, well.
Yeah, if you would have removed it last turn,
I've got free mana.
Yeah.
Imagine if your opponent's Wild Growth was just a minion you could attack. Then it's Darnassus Aspirant, and we don't play with it.
That's true. That was a card that we did not see any play with, really. So. Yes. It looks like it would have. Everything would have panned out much better for Slysssa if she would have removed that minion.
Yeah, if your opponent has a card with a passive effect in play, and that passive effect does something valuable, blow it up.
I'd like to see maybe some trades come out here. The Zilliax can magnetize onto the Meat Wagon, thus making it actually eligible to pull out things later on.
Yeah, because the only 2 minions that it actually pulls out are Mechano Egg.
Right.
And both of those they're now out of the deck. So the Meat Wagon is effectively, its Death Rattle's been nullified here. The Zilliax turns it into something, but you can also turn your Mechano Egg into something in that way.
Yeah. It looks like maybe she just wants to get the Meat Wagon out of play, I guess.
Well, I don't want its Psychic Scream back.
That's true. You don't want a Psychic Scream back into your deck. Or maybe you don't mind if it is, because if an egg gets Psychic Scream back into your deck, then it's pretty sweet.
Oh boy. So how much damage is on board for Slysssa? 14, 15, and then Blessing of Kings makes that 19 damage.
Yeah, was there a way she could have set up lethal last turn? While still removing both the Radiant Elementals? No, yeah.
I don't think so.
It gets pretty close, but just not quite there. Maybe you... No,
Was
she
it
doesn't have a
Kings last
weapon,
turn?
so...
No, I don't think. I think if you Kings last turn, it doesn't end up working either. Because the way it would be panning out is you'd be losing a minion in some capacity to clear both Radiants at that point.
Right.
Or you'd be foregoing 8 damage to face. And both of those sound like troubling circumstances.
You never want to miss that 8 to face.
Yeah, that's what you fought the whole game for. That's what your entire deck is built around, is getting the 8/8. Use that to attack.
It's looking like Songbird might be able to stabilize here. The Scream, as we've been saying, that's why this matchup is Priest favored, is because the Scream does this, which is crazy impactful. And with the Spirit Lash behind it, Songbird's going to have ways to heal up and get out of range again.
I think so.
Is patience.
We got more Hearthstone coming up today, though. We have some show matches that'll be taking place after this. Zalay going to be taking on Reynad in our first of that one. So you're not going to want to miss that. Stick around. After this match is done, we got plenty more. There you get a glimpse of the man himself.
He has not been seen a lot in competitive Hearthstone. And who knows when the next time he'll show up is. He's a busy man.
Recently, that is, anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of extra health, and that's a Malagos that's still in play.
Yeah, it's looking like there was a window of opportunity there for Slysssa to make something happen, and it's just faded away now. It was so close.
That's the thing. Psychic Scream is so powerful against this deck. It shuts down the entire strategy with that one card.
And I think it just came down to that Radiant Elemental that you mentioned. If she would have removed that 2/5, then all of a sudden that 5/5 Radiant Elemental is not there. So that means more damage is going to the face the next turn because Shadow Essence wasn't played. So there's not that 5/5 that you have to remove. And I think she can probably kill her before the Scream can come
And then
out.
the other question, too, is the aggression with Blessing of Kings rather than the Spirit Singer Umbra. Does that damage window provide you with a different circumstance instead?
I liked the Umbra. The Umbra worked out. She had the win. If she killed that 2/5, then all of a sudden there's no Shadow Essence. All of a sudden everything can go face because there's no threat of Scream because they're only going on 6 mana. And you make it.
So one momentary error changes the game.
Yeah.
And Slysssa now has no way to fend off
They were
the incoming
laughing
damage.
and having a good time after she got out the Umbra and the combo worked. And I think she just maybe lost a little bit of focus because of how well things were going. And one teeny tiny little thing. It's a $2,500 mistake.
You can kill them, but they come back. You're hoping that's not there. But you can see the Spellstone.
Well, hey, able to clear all the minions.
That's step one. Step two is, please don't have my opponent do the thing I don't want them to do. And that's exactly what Songbird's going to do. She takes both undercard matches.
Wow.
Secures another $2,500. 5,000 bucks in her pocket for her performance today.
Pretty good deal.
Definitely a good deal for a second day. Unable to get her the rematch against Jia. That's going to be coming up later today. However, she made the most of these undercard matches. She is victorious in game number 5 versus Slysssa, 3-2.
Yeah, and I think some pretty strong deck building here when you take a look at the tournament in totality and in hindsight. Because it was last hero standing, Songbird's answer to Priest was just to have a pocket pick that really took out that deck, and it worked perfectly for her.